Hello, hello.
Oh, how's everybody doing?
It's finally happened, Mark. The aliens.
Yeah,
I want to play. I want to
science
play some
bit.
games. You want to play some
That's
games?
fine. Oh, look, he nods in agreement.
Oh,
No, cutie. Is
yeah.
that the is it Panther Alien? Is that
For the
who that is?
panther or cougar, I forget. Like it's the same one in different colours, but I can't remember which is which. He's pretty nice. Finally turned up
It's
for
pretty nice.
America. Setting bastard. Took his time, first class, luxury all the way.
I think what I like about that particular alien, which is fitting considering what we're talking about today, is he's got a very kind of video game appearance.
Yeah,
He looks like he could have been in an AVP game.
yeah, easily could have. Very nice. Yeah, got him. Got the bloody Mantis alien, the see-through lava predator, and a couple other ones finally turned up in the package. It would took nearly 2 months to get out.
Yeah, but this whole time we've been riding that retro Kenner Alien Predator wave. So your
Yep.
enthusiasm was just building and building. So you finally got your hands on them at least.
Finally got Scorpion alien again, so I couldn't wait to go press that button, make him explode.
Yeah, blow that mother.
But yeah, so what's on the board today?
Well, we're still on our Alien and Predator buzz, but this time it ain't about the movies, it ain't about the toys or the books or the comics. It's about the games,
I thought we were
video
doing visual
games.
novels.
Oh, that's next week's show, I think.
Uh,
But yeah, looking forward to getting into this. I have not played every Alien and Predator game, but I've damn sure played a lot of them. And
not many people have. There's a
sure,
lot of games.
yeah,
If you include every version in every system, there's a lot more than you'd think.
hopefully between the two of us, we've got some experience playing
I
through
played
some
the
of
ones that
these.
matter.
Yes, exactly. And look, some of them are old time classics, and some of them are just kind of forgetful pieces
Mm.
from the time. But we'll get into it.
You don't
Loving
really
this.
get much modern games that do good single or two-player adventure or arcade or whatever. Now it's all mostly multiplayer online stuff. So that's where most of these sorts of games are gone now. And I'm not really mostly not into those sorts of games, but there has been some decent like Predator, like first-person multiplayer death matches and all that, and some of the modern ones. But I haven't played them. But I've watched videos of those. But I'm more familiar with the previous 30 years of games.
Well, look, I've been a lifelong video gamer, but
Yeah, so
as I've gotten older, it just happens as you get
even
older, you have
better.
less time, you're tired. Um, you know, Modern games, I know I'm like the grumpy old man here, but modern games, they are usually a lot longer and more complex than what
Time
we played
wasting.
back in the day. So, it feels like you need several hours to sit down and
Mm.
play a game,
I
whereas,
played that.
back in the day,
Like I played. I can't remember if it was Assassin's Creed. They got Origins, Odyssey, Valhalla, but 100-hour games. Though it's like one of them. My game time I want to finish was 200 hours. I was playing it for 8 months. I didn't really play anything else.
yeah, I feel like I've lost years of my life playing things like
And
Red
how
Dead
many 10-hour
Redemption.
games could I have completed in that same time? Basically, like every other
Yeah,
game I own that sat there and played.
yeah, I'll always have nostalgia for those kind of. It's not just a pick up and play, but it's also a pick up and put down. You can bash
Yeah,
away for maybe 10, 15 minutes and then go off and do something else.
but yeah, I do. Like a
Look,
lot of these good games from the 90s arcade console games. You got stuff you can finish in 30 minutes, an hour, stuff you can finish in 2 to 5 hours. Doesn't take half your bloody lifetime to get through them.
yeah, the without going off on too much of a tangent, but I think when it came to games back in the day, it was more about memory and repetition.
Yeah,
Most of
learning
your time
levels.
was kind of sank into to almost practicing and perfecting, getting good at the game before you'd finally take that perfect run at just
Yeah, that,
finishing.
that was most games. That was the whole arcade style of stuff before, and early home console conversions, and that was how you got a longer life out of a game that might have taken. Maybe you can finish the game in 3 hours, but it might have taken you 6 months to learn all the levels to be able to get through some of the more complicated home console games, and that, especially the difficult ones.
Oh yeah, loving these images here. Robo Predator.
Yeah, the old Robo Predator. I wouldn't mind a toy of that now. It's just
Yeah, that's very cool looking. Very, very cool. Got a patriotic Terminator here as well.
yeah.
You certainly can merchandise it.
I'll do a quick little overview here of just what the very early Alien and Aliens with the S's games. Before we get on to our sort of choice cuts from the 90s, we're going to go through our pretty much our top 4 favorites, or of the ones we've played. I mean, there's a lot of other ones. So starting out way back in the 80s and 82, we had a game for the Atari 2600, which is very simple. And there are long plays of these on YouTube. You can type it in. There's loads of classic retro gaming channels and long plays where you can watch just the actual game long play without, like, commentary or annoying heads in the corners like us talking, where you can actually, I look at them all the time for reference, especially if something I haven't played, and just to get an idea of the style, the graphics, the sounds. But basically, it was just a really bad Pac-Man clone, which ironically, it probably plays slightly better than the actual Pac-Man on Atari 2600, which was quite bad as well. Then we had 1984 Alien, which gets a little confusing because there were several games in this era. You had computer game for systems like Commodore 64, where it's very almost abstract and simple looking. But in one retrospective I watched, saying this game is probably actually the most similar to Alien Isolation and how it actually plays, but with very, very simple graphics. Because you've got, like, the one alien again. And you've got another one in 86 called Aliens, the Computer Game, on various platforms, ZX Spectrum, Commodore 64, and players controlling a team of Marines and missions against the alien threat. And there was a couple of different, this is 3 games, but there's actually at least 4 on some of these earlier home micros and computers. Like Commodore 64 alone has 3 completely different games, not including that Atari one. Because the one in the bottom right here, that picture of Bert, that one I actually played on Commodore 64. And most retrospectives on YouTube, when I look them up, will say every Alien video game ever. And all of them miss that game. And I'm like, well, that's the only one I played back then. How's it not in there? Because I think it was a UK game or something like that. Like maybe UK, Australian. I think it possibly didn't come out in America. But in that one, you get to play as Ripley, Gorman, Hicks, Bishop, Vasquez, and Burke all at the same time. And it's the only game that does that. And it's not great. It's actually aims pretty high what it does, but it's kind of simple and boring, but it has high ambitions. You're walking around in first person, exploring different corridors, and occasionally an alien will appear or come through a door. But it's very slow paced, and it's like it's not what you call an action game. It's more kind of almost strategy, because while all the characters are active at the same time, you have to press a button on your keyboard to toggle between each character, not unlike some of your PC top-down stuff. So it's kind of resource management. You can only move one character at a time. Meanwhile, your other characters can be getting killed and dying because they won't move by themselves. They only move when you do, like chess pieces on a board. But it's quite an interesting game to actually look at, and the design of it. And it feels like something they could kind of remake and do better now. But for the C64, it was quite impressive. But when I played it, I found it quite irritating and boring. But commendable is what they're aiming for, and it had some of the nicest graphics really of all of them.
Amazing. So you actually got to play as Burke in a game as well, like that.
Yeah, you got the good thing is you can let him die. He's just like stuff. You let him die first. But you might be more familiar with the Alien trilogy on PlayStation 1. That was
Love this game, even though it's a total Doom clone, but it's a great Doom clone. It's one of the better Doom clones.
And there is actually also
a
good fan mod of Doom, which turns Doom into alien levels. It's been around for a long time. You can grab for free online.
I think as well, and not to once again to wander off on too much of a tangent, but the fact that it's called the Alien trilogy, as in there's only
It's very
three
misleading.
movies, and but I love it. I do love that kind of that era where there actually was only three movies. Like I remember going into the video shop and seeing the Alien trilogy box set of VHS, and
Yeah,
this game,
Die
of
Hard
course, just
trilogy.
kind of emphasizing it's just yeah, a trilogy. That's it. There's nothing more to it. I kind of like being in that time frame. But yeah, it was a
Simpler
great Wii
times.
game. Simpler times,
Yeah, it
definitely.
was a fun game. I never owned it, but a mate had it on his PlayStation before I ever owned the PlayStation myself. So I played it a fair bit at his place, and I remember it was good fun. And it's very misleading to call it Alien Trilogy because you think, oh, is it going to have stuff from all three movies? It's just a weird melange, just one continuous game that kind of blends stuff from the different movies. And it's not truly a trilogy as far as the three films. It's more just like the middle movie, Aliens.
Yeah, it's not like the Die Hard trilogy game, which will
Yeah, it
give
was
you
three
three
guys.
distinct games.
Yeah.
It's an older one.
And of the more obscure ones in the 90s, we had Aliens, a comic book adventure, which actually has the Dark Horse logo on it. It's interesting. And that was like a kind of like your pre-rendered backgrounds like Resident Evil, but you're going around with a point and click mouse like Myst or any of those kind of ones. And it's got some really nice graphics, and there's long plays of this, but it looks really boring. You can literally walk into a cupboard and sit on a toilet in this game. It's like super slow, not much the way of action because it is an adventure game. So you're pointing and clicking, doing little puzzles, and a lot of opening doors over and over again, like Resident Evil or Myst.
Never even heard of it before today.
Yeah, like it wasn't popular, but I think it's a CD-ROM game going by the graphics, and there wasn't much, not a lot of information out about it because I knew it existed, but I'd never seen it running myself back then. Because I used to go to video game shops all the time that would have. I didn't have a PC. I had Mega Drive, Sega Saturn, PlayStation, Game Boy. Didn't have a PC, couldn't afford a PC, but I'd go to computer shops and game shops that would have stuff running, that have Doom running, that have when Quake was first out, Quake 2, Hex, and all this kind of stuff. Even game shops that had like 3DO and other odd things. So I got to see a lot of cool stuff, but I certainly never saw this gameplay. But yeah, we had that. We had the other games that we'll be talking about coming up here, like such as the first PC Alien vs Predator game, 1999, the Capcom arcade Alien vs Predator game, and the first one coming up in our sort of picks is the first Konami Alien game, and it's also the first ever arcade game for Aliens, or Alien anything. It's the first arcade game.
Would have loved to have played this game as a kid. I just know I'd love it, and I've only ever watched videos of it. I've never physically played it, but
The play is great.
I I just know by looking at it because we've all played these type of Konami games before, so you know the kind of look and feel of games of this era. And
It's
I
pretty
just know
much
that
your
this game would have
side-scrolling
been.
like Golden Axe, but you're shooting like Contra, but not as fast as Contra, and you can take a lot more hits before you die.
It looks awesome. It really does. You obviously had plenty of experience playing this one as a young
Yeah,
kid.
this game I loved. Like this game I played a lot before that. For our later one, for the later Capcom one came out, Aliens versus Predator. That one is very well known in the 90s, even to people that weren't big on video games or big on. It was just like Ninja Turtles arcade. It was a big deal. A lot of people played it or saw it and saw it at the movie theater or the arcade. This Aliens game was awesome, and I don't know if I ever saw it in the big arcade Wizards back in Christchurch, but at some point it turned up one of my local chip shops, literally like a 5-minute walk from where I lived and around the corner from school. So this chip shop, every few months they would rotate and get a different game out, and it probably a bit older, probably been out for a couple of years by then, but it was cheap. It was like 20 cents, so 5 credits, $1. I'd go there after school and just play it. Like each day I'd get like some chips and I'd play the game. And I know I was a tight ass, so I'd spend 1 credit. That was it each time. And I'd get a little bit further, eventually I can just beat the entire game in 1 credit. So, and it's not terribly difficult. You can learn. It's short. You can finish in about half an hour. But the game on the version I played, it looped back to the start. Then you can then complete the whole game a second time on 1 credit. So you're there for nearly an hour for 20 cents. That's some good value for entertainment after school.
That's real bang for your buck.
Yeah.
And don't be so modest, Johnny. Like you're a true arcade cabinet legend, because like
Yeah, I used to
I
play a lot
know
of
I
stuff.
wouldn't be getting anywhere on 1 credit. You know, I'd be smashing
I
those
used
coins
to
and
finish
be
Golden
going
Axe on
hungry.
1 credit, but it took me months to get to that. But I was like 8 years old when I started playing that, and it probably took me 6-12 months before I could finish it in 1 credit. Because you'd watch other people playing it, and you'd learn the enemy repetition, the patterns, what weapon you need for what thing. But it's a lot easier than say Contra and stuff. Like I'm terrible at Contra. I just die on that, and I never had home NES version to play to get the time to learn it. But I have got a clip. We'll take a look at the first stage of this, and the cool thing is you get to see the weapons and all the cool sound effects, and the music and intro is really cool. They did a very good sort of style for the movie in that, which I loved. And this game still plays great today. I can happily, like, if they brought this out on the digital networks, I'll be buying it straight away. Or if they put a compilation disc of Konami stuff, I will be buying this for sure. But we'll take a look at the first stage here.
Aliens.
Come on!
Yeah, there's the first stage of the Konami arcade Aliens game, and some of the bosses are quite strange and weird designs. It reminds me like the Kenner Aliens and that, just like weird stuff they made up. And other ones are a bit more traditional. And the sprites and stuff and artwork in this game is awesome. Like really cool designs all throughout this game.
It's a
If anyone
beautiful
who's
looking
played,
game.
Castlevania, you'll see a very familiar enemy on the bottom of the screen there, the little winged bat thing. It's got a head now, but it does the exact same wave pattern up and down as the enemy from Castlevania.
Yeah, some real classic Konami tropes here for this. It looks excellent. It really does. And like you were saying, those kind of colorful looking versions of the aliens. They are very reminiscent of the Canner toys that would come along later on. I love seeing like those like green face huggers and stuff like that. Like that's totally Canner.
Cool. And there's a couple of bosses that are like very much Contra style bosses. It's a lot easier than that because it's a short arcade game. It's not terribly difficult, but it's more just like kind of memorizing the enemies and having the right weapon. The flamethrower is the best overall weapon for pretty much the whole game. But there's certain spots in the game where really want to have like the missile launcher for a couple of bosses and stuff. And
I love the fact that you get the kind of on rails level with the APC, which I know we're gonna see that again in another game we're talking about later. But I always thought that was really cool.
The on rails bit, there's an interesting kind of story with that. Like the version I played, that wasn't in it, which I didn't even know that existed until after I'd played the game a lot. And I played at local chip shop regularly, finished it over and over again. I get to the point where I just finish it like every time I played it. And but then I went into the city in the arcade one time, and they had a version there, and that had those in between stages where in the APC that travels, because there's only a couple of them in the game, only 2 or 3, and they travel in between certain stages. But apparently in the ROM set, which I never knew why it was different, but when I looked up this week, apparently depending on where you lived in the world, there's certain ROM sets that have those stages and certain ones that don't. I have no idea why the difference exists, but at least I know that there's actually 2 different ROM sets, and that's why. But so when I got to play that version, guess what happened on this game that I'd finished so many times in one credit? I died when I got to the APC bit because I'd never played it. And it's completely different because you're going sideways, up and down on the side scrolling. Now you're stationary. You can't move. You can move left and right, but it's like CAALLL or other arcade games like that, where you're just firing up the screen, or Rambo on Mega Drive. And the aliens come at you like super fast, much faster than the side-scrolling levels. So I just died, and you can take a lot more damage a lot faster than you can in the regular stages. So I had to learn how to do those stages, having never played them. And they had an old at Wizards in Christchurch, which was the big arcade in the heart of the city, right in the square, where they'd have about 100 or more arcade games in a big room. Sometimes they would get rid of old arcade games, and when I say old ones, the machine it's in the cab is basically falling apart, and it's cheaper for them to give it away than to try and pay someone to take it to the dump. So it's livable, but it's on its way out and fairly dog-eared. So they might have an old ROM set in it. The marquee is probably gone, and the side art's probably some old machine, whatever, that usually didn't match. But they would regularly, once a month for quite a while, give away old arcade games, and the only thing you had to do was get the high score on it for that month and keep it. But if someone came and beat it, whoever had the high score at the end of the month on that day, they got the machine. But they had to come and pick it up and take it away. So if you haven't got a trailer or four-wheel drive or something, it's not going anywhere. But I went in and played it, and straight away got the top high score on it, and I had it for the whole month. And like me and my mate, oh great, I'm going to get this arcade game for free. Like it's legit for free. You can take it home, even though the panel boards are coming apart. You're still getting the ROM set, the screen. It's working. You might get a couple of years out of it before it dies. But on the last day, someone beat the damn score, and I'd never met them or saw them, but went back in. They didn't just beat it; they beat it by like a crazy amount. And I'd love to know how they did it, because this game, like Golden Axe and some arcade games, Ninja Turtles, Simpsons, if you just stand around doing nothing, eventually a drop of acid will come off the screen and just kill you and take an entire life off you. Because if no one's playing the game and walks away, they want it to reset back to the first screen so a new person can come and put more money in the machine. So that was a common feature in a lot of arcade games, where the game would actually kill you if you stood still too long. But you have to sit there for about a minute. You only find out by accident or if you walk away. But yeah, there's certain spots in the games where enemies will actually respawn infinitely, so you can get as much points as you want. But if you stay there, this acid will come down and just kill you and take a whole life. So you have to kind of creep the screen along a little bit, kill some enemies, creep along, kill some enemies. So this person must have had a method for doing that to absolute perfection without getting that kill death acid coming onto them, because they beat my score by a crazy amount. And my score had beaten every other score that was on there by like double or triple, and the guy that might beat my score was about double my one again. It was up in like millions of points. It was crazy. So I'd love to know how he did it exactly. Wouldn't have been a fun way to play the game though, because if you just sit there just killing the same enemy over and over again.
It sounds like he was quite literally gaming the system in that
Absolutely.
instance.
But I mean, good on him. Well, power to him if he if he did it.
So, like on the version though you were playing originally as
Yeah,
a kid, so you get to the end of the first level, you see the bit with her walking onto the APC, and then what? Does it just cut to? It
just
just
goes to
skips the
level
whole
2.
section then. Right,
Yeah, it skips
right.
the whole
That's
section that
interesting.
goes to level 2. Like there's the boss there, that purple thing. So instead of seeing the APC, you just straight into this next bottom bit down here with the vents. It just goes stage whatever.
Interesting.
Yeah, we get a cool we get vents. We get a cool elevator level here. Elevator level is very popular. Streets of Rage and other games like that. And if you don't kill enough of the aliens, eventually there's 3 cables and they'll snap, and the whole elevator will drop down and crash and take a life off you. So you have to kill them fast enough. We get another cool boss battle here, which the guys that did the Capcom game made that. Definitely play this, because this boss here is basically repeated in the Alien vs Predator Capcom game, and this is a Konami one, but they pretty much borrowed this rolling ball boss guy and repurposed him in another game.
How does the mechanic of the kind of tracking device works? I've seen it now in a few screen shots here. Is it only there sometimes? Do you need to pick it up,
It's
or
I think it's just cosmetic. Like it just shows a dot, but the enemies come so fast that you see them as soon as they're there. So it's not something you ever really look at when you're playing it. I think it's just there to try and reference the movie and that. Like it's not helpful in actual gameplay, but it looks cool.
yeah, it does look cool. Just a
I
nice
do
touch that they threw it in.
I do like here on the bottom right, after you fight this like rolling ball boss guy who keeps like bouncing around the scenery, you get I don't know why, but you get zombies who usually aren't in the Alien movies, but they're definitely zombies. They got blue skin, their arms are out like this, and they shamble along. And one of them's on a gun turret, so that feels more like traditional kind of like beat 'em up game type enemy as far as just the look of them. So I don't know if they're meant to be colonists or marines or what they are, but they're just random zombies, and they're kind of fun that they're in the game. And later on, we get different version of the zombies up the top left here. Those ones have no legs; they're just upper torsos with guts hanging out, crawling along the ground, which is fairly gruesome. And we get a cool level here where we're going along, and the whole floor breaks away, and we fall into the sewers. And then we get these spider crab alien things, so they're cool. And again, remind me like that later, like the Kenner toys and that. We get a kind of mid level before the next boss where you get to be on the power loader. And tell me, see the screenshot with the power loader. Do you recognize the big giant wrecking ball thing from anything?
Definitely looks familiar. I was looking at it at the
Cowabunga!
moment.
Totally
Yeah,
radical,
of
dude.
course. Yeah.
It's literally the same sprite.
And
They
there's
borrowed
few
that
even
from their
those
own Ninja Turtles game, and it only turns up
those
in that
oil
point of the game.
barrels.
Pretty much not ever again the rest of the game. So it's kind of random that they just used it there. I don't know if they just did it for fun or what. So you get some green
Because even
face huggers. You also
the
get
sprites.
bombs that you pick up. And as we're heading in, you get these characters webbed into the walls. And as you're going along, chest bursters actually burst out of them, and they'll hurt you if you don't shoot them. And there's not just one chest burster; they keep coming out forever. So you just got to get past them and keep away from them. And it leads into this hive, and we get another really cool boss battle, one of the most contra looking ones. We get a big crazy mutant alien thing with crazy tentacle arms that pop out, and they do that kind of super scalar effect like bloody all the Sega games like your Afterburner, Outrun, and what's the one I'm thinking of? The guy that flies, Space Harrier, the guy that flies around through the sky, and you get all the sprites that like scale out, kind of 3D style, popping out at you. And that boss is really cool because it starts off, it's got aliens all over him. You have to shoot them off. Then these arms and head pop out, and you have to shoot each one off. And if it grabs you, it spins you in circles around the screen and does massive damage. And when you start killing him, he erupts and explodes, and just eggs come flying out everywhere. So I don't know if it's a queen or what the hell it is, but it's a bizarre looking thing, but it makes a really cool boss battle.
Yeah, he's a freaky ass looking creature design. Because I was watching, like, when I was watching videos of this game, I was like, what the hell is that? But
Yeah.
just to backtrack a bit, like what you're saying, it is so colorful and vibrant. And those, like, yeah, that crab alien, like that Tanner surely must have been inspired by this game when they were coming up with some of
It was a very popular
the
game.
creature designs. But yeah,
And we get
like
our
the
first
rabbit
alien
ball as
eggs too
well.
in this level.
Awesome. Yes. Infinite chest bursters as well, you know, that's
Yeah,
a
hilarious. Those
terrifying
poor
concept.
people.
Yeah. Yeah, how
Don't
much
be the
like
lady with the green pants in this game. Oh, and I
like
didn't
that,
mention, but the character you're playing is Ripley, who has blonde hair for some reason and blue pants. The blue pants are okay, but the blonde hair's odd, and
yeah,
probably
strange.
for legal likeness reasons. And but the second player, if you play on one player side, it's Ripley. If you play on the two player side, because this is a two player game, two players together game, if you want to play together, and it works well. The two player is basically Hicks. He's not named in the game, but it basically just is Hicks because you know from Aliens that you know that's the main two, you know, your leads through the movie, and the little girls that you're rescuing is kind of reminds me of, like, I don't know, Michael Jackson's Moonwalker. Little kids are just hiding in weird vents and stuff. That's sprite's clearly based around Newt because it's got the girl with the hair.
The other little dolly with her as well, you know. So
Yeah,
yeah, no, it just always looked to me like an awesome game. Like I said, I would have loved to have just had the opportunity to actually play it as a kid because that's when it would have
yeah,
landed the
and
most. But like
it's
beautiful
aged really
looking game.
well. It's got like flawless controls, and like the shooting mechanics and that are just like perfection. Like it still plays really well today. I can happily play this again today and enjoy it just as much.
More on rails here. Yeah, it's got that classic Konami vibe just
Yeah.
coming off these images here.
And I do like, you get another breakaway floor section. You get aliens crawling up, cool animation crawling up from underneath, like vents and ladders and shafts and that. We get more face huggers popping out of those little square vent boxes. A really weird boss that's some kind of insect looking thing, and it creeps around on its legs like a spider. And out of its like big back, it like pumps out these floating balls which float around in a big kind of protective barrier. You have to kind of shoot them away before you can damage it properly. And when you shoot them away, it just keeps making more of them. It's a really weird boss, but quite memorable. So it's like another spider crab kind of insect thing.
I'd love to see NACA take a stab at doing some of the creature designs from this
Yeah,
game and modern figures because they did the basic alien warrior from this game, literally that like pink sprite you're seeing now on screen. They released one of that and he comes with like a big orange egg, but they never did any of the, you know, the more bizarre looking creatures. Like I'm assuming the only reason they even did the standard warrior was just because they already had the mold from doing the movie version, so they just,
yeah.
you know, repainted it. But I'd love to see them actually like that creature with like the floating whatever they are, like that would look awesome as a NECA toy.
Yeah, it's cool that you get a mix of traditional aliens. I mean, in weird colors, obviously, but then they made up a bunch of their own original creations, just like how Kenner did with the toys and that. So it's really cool getting to see the weird ones that they make up. More nice animation here. We go through the vent section. Now we get aliens popping up out of the vents, kind of like Funhouse, like haunted house sort of style. So it's cool seeing the same enemy, but now you've got a different animation and a different way of attacking, killing you as you're going along.
This looks amazing. Just
We've
love
got
these color palettes.
yeah, I've got 3 boss battles here. There's a lot of, like, every stage has a boss battle in this game, and they're fairly short, but they kick your ass until you learn how to fight them. At the top middle, you got these weird kind of heads on big legs, and there's like 4 or 5 of them, and they're super slow. But every time you shoot them, they go all gigantic size and shrink down again, and they move real slow. They don't even hardly attack you, but just you're in a confined space where you've just got to shoot them really quickly, otherwise they just keep like crowding you and take all your damage.
Yeah, claustrophobic environment is really
Yeah.
your real enemy in that situation.
And we get some cool sections here where there's actually an upper level and lower level. So if you're playing on 2 players, you can have one on each path. It's kind of cool. And another boss battle, we get these 2 blue purple aliens with the weird kind of spikes up all like their head and that. and they're kind of like twins or whatever, because they have this like lightning electricity that goes between. They run incredibly fast off the screen, and they shoot these like lightning bolt electricity things at you. It's one of the toughest boss battles in the game is those two. But once you kill one of them, it's a bit easier. It's like when you Turtles, you fight Bebop and Rocksteady together later in the game, but they're incredible, like 10 times speed. These things just go like the flash off the screen everywhere.
Of course, they have that well documented alien ability to create like localized electrical
Yep,
disturbances.
just ball lightning. And we get next up another nest, and it's really cool how the background changes. You're in like the industrial colonist environment. You can see like the emergency, the safety like barriers, and you can see there's quite a few bits in the game where acid actually drops as an animation and it actually melts the floor, and the repeating pattern is really cool. And the background subtly changes, and we can see we start getting the cocoon background. We're going to another, and the eggs appear and go into another alien nest. But this time, it's not the weird Contra boss. This is a proper queen, and the staging of it is absolutely awesome. The way it pops up in silhouette before you even see it, and you know as soon as you see that silhouette what it is, because it's got the big egg sac on it, and you've got to actually shoot all the egg sac off before you can do real damage to the alien queen. In the meantime, is little warrior drones running and constantly dropping in new eggs, and the eggs hatch and spit face huggers out at you. So it's one of the tougher battles. You've really got to like strategize where you're hitting on screen, because you can just get overwhelmed so fast.
I think what I love most about this whole moment, especially from looking at stills and just getting a moment to kind of take in what you're looking at, they have that big, long, kind of almost, the Giger-esque style corridor painted behind the queen.
Yeah.
But because
And the
it's
queen's
colored
got
red,
all their like sticky back stuff that she's like, that holds her up when she's in the egg sac position and that.
the red coloring though in that corridor makes it look like you're inside somebody's body.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
yeah,
like internal organs and that, which is very
yeah,
Giger as well.
yeah. And then all the eggs, like it looks awesome. It looks absolutely awesome. And that is a
Yeah,
really nice touch where you see the silhouette first before the actual reveal,
and the
even though you
music,
do
it
know what
actually
it's going to
goes,
be.
when it pops up, it actually goes silent for a minute, and it's a real like film technique where it goes silent, has a silhouette, and then the music like all of a sudden ramps up, and the alien queen's like making the sounds, because they did a few cool sounds that actually sampled from the movies too.
Awesome. I love this. I love this type of setup in a game.
But yeah, it's such a cool battle. You have to shoot all the egg sac off section by section, then you can hurt her, and she actually like eventually falls down off her big back bits break away, and she falls down on the ground. You kill her properly. There's a nice close up there.
Burn these bitches. This is total like end of Aliens movie vibes we're getting here.
Yeah.
Just like letting loose with that flamethrower. Incinerate those mother butters.
It's getting dark in here. Sun's going down. Yeah, and the sprites and just the graphics are just awesome. They stand up so well. Like they're so well animated. They're simple, but like where Ripley's fairly simple, the aliens, like there's so much detail and they just look amazing.
I'd love to get a good like emulator of this to
Yeah, it'll be one of the easier games to get running on MAME, I think, because it's a fairly low spec game.
They've just done a really good job as well, because look, I'm sure we'll get to it later, with a lot of, because of the nature of the Alien movies that look very dark and dank, and sometimes as a reflection of that, the games will also have that type of dark look to them. But this game is just really like technicolor to the extreme. It like classic Konami, just like throwing it all at you.
Like it's one of my favorite Alien games and a great game that still plays well. But I can say that the gameplay stands up as probably the best element, while the aliens is kind of like the icing on top. They did a good use of the license by far, but you could take this exact same game and like palette swap or change out all the enemies in the theme, and the game would still play exactly the same and still play just as well. But that's really a testament to the design of Konami. arcade games and how well they made stuff.
Really nice use. Once again, we see the power loader here for our
Yeah.
final confrontation with
And
the,
we get
with the Queen coming up.
Up the top, there's a flying bat alien too, so that's another new different thing they made up for the game.
I love this this end shot here of as well. Sorry, that's my cat flowing up my chair there. The Queen, it's just like, it is very reminiscent of the movie, obviously, with the final moment between
Yeah,
Ripley,
we got that top down
and the Alien
perspective
Queen.
too, where she's stuck on the wall.
Yeah, I love it. Brilliant. And my own kitty growling in the background there. Okay.
Ninja. Yeah, we're coming up on the just about come up to the next game, but before we do that, I've got a little very, very quick clip of here, about 30-second clip I'm going to play it.
Very cool. Very cool.
Before we move on to the next one, I'll tell you another little nerd fact about this Alien Queen boss battle at the end, which is really fun. It doesn't take very long because once you damage her a certain amount, you have to get the background stage is quite long and the power load is very slow. So you've got to walk down to the the evacuation port thing out to the exterior. Once you pick her up, it prompts you. There's two buttons. You press button one like really fast, like super speed fast. And if you don't press it fast enough, she doesn't lift the alien up, and she'll get out and start attacking you again. So you've got to lift it up and keep pressing it while walking along. And while you're doing that, her mouthpiece is going trying to get you like the movie. That's really cool. So you throw her down and it ends exactly like that. But because I played this game so much over several months and was playing it like at least once or twice a week after school for probably 6 months, sometimes I would keep playing and just keep attacking her and fighting her just for fun, because I didn't care if I died. I'd played it so many times. And if you just keep fighting her, eventually you can kill her and she just explodes.
Oh,
but it takes quite a long while because she dashes past you. You can only jab at her with one arm, like chop arm with the thing. And if it explodes, you still see the cutscene at the end, but she literally explodes into little pieces, just like a Mortal Kombat fatality of bits everywhere.
I suppose they had to make it so if somebody just couldn't, maybe, they assume that you might have watched the movie. Yeah, you've watched the movie already, so maybe you know about the whole airlock thing. But if you haven't, you'd probably just assume, no, I'm just going to bludgeon this bitch to death.
Yeah. But it was a really cool bonus thing to find out, because the game always prompts you to try and chuck her out. But to find out she could just explode her, but you get more points as well. And if you're playing the loop where the game restarts when you finish it and you can play the whole game again, I think your score carries over, but I'm not 100% sure. And you get the end. The alien breeding ground's been destroyed. The last of their flung into timeless space. Kind of a bit of grammatical error there. You have also survived. Typical English. Thank you for playing. I like when they say thank you for playing. That was like Konami and Sega be like, thank you and everyone else.
Well, I'm glad to know that we also survived. This experience.
And Hick survived because he was player 2.
Yeah, he was just hanging back the whole time, watching Ripley take care of business.
I had played it on 2 players a few. Occasionally, like a mate would join him, but then they'd die halfway through, or they'd have to go home. They're like, "I got to go home and see my brother or my mum or something," and they'd dash off again. And then you'd be playing 2 players by yourself for a minute, trying to move both characters along to move the screen. You have to kill them on purpose so you can keep moving.
I remember those type of moments in games where you're stuck with an unmoving second player because somebody had to leave.
That's when we need that acid to drop down and kill him, but not me.
Yes. Yeah.
But yeah, someone's done this on like a fan website or whatever. They've put a whole bunch of sprites onto this bosses and that into one image, which is pretty cool. You get to see the zombie again there, as well as the chest burster, face hugger, queen. and the little newt girl up the back.
Yeah, I wonder what the actual, or if they even bothered. I'm sure they did have some thought, but I wonder, like,
Mm.
are the zombies supposed to be like Marines who are infected with like an alien
Yeah, that's what I
parasite or
wondered.
something? Or they're an interesting addition to the game. You'd wonder why they didn't just throw in a bunch of like androids or something like that. It's weird that they
Mm.
went with
It's a
these
funny thing.
zombie type.
It,
But
it
yeah,
reminds me,
that's right. It's definitely
reminds me of
mixed.
the dudes from Altered Beast.
Yeah, you'd have to get Altered Beast vibes from it.
It's a funny thing. Some of the later video games also will have you randomly just fighting human enemies who are not supposed to be bad, who are basically collars that start shooting you at some of the later video games.
Yeah, it's like they're always like they're never just comfortable with the idea of we have these terrifying alien creatures that are pretty ferocious by themselves, but no, we're gonna find a way to shoehorn in humanoid characters some way.
I've never seen the little newt sprite that big because someone's blowing it up there. It's nearly twice the size. You can actually see he's holding a little bunny.
Yes, a little freaky looking kind of evil bunny as well with red
With
eyes.
those red eyes.
The bunny
Yeah, we're moving
controls
on.
everything.
The next pick of like awesome 90s alien video games. I mean, number one, Konami, no particular order, but the first one's Konami arcade game. This is a Sega Genesis Alien 3, which also got converted to a lot of home consoles. Later, we're talking Alien vs. Predator Capcom Arcade, and their last topic will be the AVP PC game of the late 90s. But you've got some good experiences with this one on the old Mega Drive.
Oh yeah, I blasted through this game like for so many days on end.
It's a lot of
It is a
levels.
bollocks of a game. It's a lot of levels and it's a tough game. Um, if the Alien 3 movie had as much action as this game, it would have been a totally different experience. So so basically the premise of the game is that you play as Ripley and you have to run through all these different stages and rescue prisoners who have been cocooned to the walls of the various stages, and there's a timer going down on each level. And if you don't rescue all the cocooned prisoners before the timer goes down, then the level will end, and you'll get a cutscene of all the prisoners getting chest bursted,
It's
essentially.
like
So
Lemmings.
yeah, it's and it's a really tough game. Like the main thing with this game is trying to memorize the locations of all the prisoners that you have to rescue within each stage,
Yeah,
and
it's
then
tough.
working out a route to get to them before the time expires. All the while you're doing battle with xenomorphs. One thing I'll say about this game, though, from a weapons point of view, you come hit it out right from the get go. You get a pulse rifle, you get a flamethrower, you get a grenade launcher, and you also get like grenades that you can just throw as well. So like you definitely never feel like you're struggling for ammo or weapons throughout the game. But you can transition from different parts of the level to other areas of the levels by crawling through air vents. And those are really kind of claustrophobic moments in the game because there's aliens obviously running through them and crawling after you, and you have to like you can either shoot them or you can kind of throw your grenades down the shaft to try and blow them up before they get to you. But it leads to some really intense gameplay throughout. Also, as well, in this game, you actually do make use of your tracker, your motion sensor. It is pretty handy for picking up oncoming enemies or giving you an idea of like there's an enemy above you or below you on that type of 2D playing field.
Yeah, here it
Um,
works well.
it does work well. It's also one of those features that you need to actually collect batteries in order to keep your tracker on. So if you run out of battery, essentially the tracker goes off and you're kind of blind, knowing what direction the enemies are going to come for you, especially in the early days of playing the game before you've memorized where all the different sprites are going to appear and stuff. But it's yeah, it's a tough game, but also a really like rewarding game as well. Like, you know, you do feel like you've accomplished something when you do finally get to the end of it. And it took me a pretty long time as a kid to get to the end of it. It would be like a what it felt like an endlessly frustrating experience trying to kind of learn the locations of all the prisoners you have to rescue. And
That
the way it
time
kind of
limit's
works, it's
faster.
almost it's like that kind of Sonic the Hedgehog level setup where you do kind of three normal stages and then you fight like a boss at the end of after you do your few levels. And the boss at the end is always like just a big souped up xenomorph, and depending on the level you may have to
There
do
we go. Top right,
different
there's one there.
things. Yeah, like, you know, so like when you come across them, I think first time all you have to do is just use whatever weapons you have to kill them. Whereas when you come across them later on, you have to actually just escape them. You don't kill them. There's always a little twist on how you have to beat them, even though it's the same boss essentially repeating over and over again after each
Yeah, same
stage. But
sprite, same dudes.
they just gimmick it up to a point where, you know, it makes it different enough. Then as you progress through the game, it's 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 crazy kind of seeing these environments from Alien 3 being so well lit up and just, you know, because Alien 3 is such a dank, brown looking movie. So
Yeah, the old Fincher
to get a
brown
game,
filter.
yeah, to get a game that actually has a bit of color and pop to it is very
It,
refreshing
it,
as
it is
well.
suitably dark too. It's just, but because it's a TV and game, it is brighter that you can see in the graphic style. But it does have that still has good atmosphere to it, and I think the soundtrack and the music's cool too.
Yeah, the soundtrack's really good. I think it's the same guy who did the music for the Terminator game on the Sega as well. So
Yeah,
he knows what he's doing, that composer. It's a very gory game as well. We can even see here in these kind of middle shots where you can see like cattle sliced up in a slaughterhouse and like chickens hanging from, you know,
yeah. It feels like
bars
you're in
and stuff.
Splatterhouse in those bits.
Yeah, this is definitely the slaughterhouse district of the game that we see Ripley battling through here. But yes, you see there, you see in a few of these stills, it says level guardian. That's the name of the end of level boss that you have to meet at the end of each stage. They refer to him as
Good
the
old
level
level
guardian.
Guardian, by the original name.
And you know, most of the levels they will follow the same formula of you're doing a bit of running and gunning while simultaneously rescuing the prisoners and escaping the level. But there are a couple of levels later on where they actually change up the format. So there's one level where there are actually no prisoners to rescue at all, and it's just nothing but enemies. So you just have to go kind of balls to the wall shooting to get your way out of it. Whereas then there's another level that's the flip side of that, where there's actually no aliens or any enemies to kill at all, but it's filled with prisoners that you have to rescue and find where they are before the time runs out and they all die. So the game will mix things up a bit so it doesn't become like over formulaic, you know, which can happen with a lot of games of the era. But
Yeah,
finally, as
using a lot of
we're
the same tile sets, but there's a good variety overall in the levels as you go through.
yes, and one major advantage that this game has over the movie is that it obviously has like the premises that it's like an alien queen with multiple alien drones and lots of action, which is something that the
It feels like it's based more on earlier draft, or maybe they just said go and make whatever, because they were a bit more free
yeah,
in the 16-bit era as far as licensed stuff.
probably probably because the entire game culminates in an actual battle in an alien hive against an alien queen. So it's nothing like the end of the
Yeah,
movie, which is like, you know, a whole solo deal with Ellen Ripley. It's a totally different kettle of fish. And I suppose, look, it's a very different vibe to the game, the Aliens game we just looked at, because that was like an arcade game, and it's just it's a different type of
Short and
intensity and
sweet and
vibe
it's
to it.
done, whereas this is like a slow grind where you've got to learn a lot, but it's rewarding too to get to play over a longer period of time at home.
Yes, yeah, and it really does come down to, as most of our childhood video
Do you
game
have any
experiences were.
cheats? Is there any level selects or passwords or anything?
Yeah, there is passwords, I believe, for when you get past, the end of each level.
Because
But it
most
like
games didn't have game save back then. So
no game saves, and yeah, it was just a ball. It took me a long time, like to. It really felt like month by month, I was just kind of like
mm,
inching my way a bit further through the game. And then I remember like the first few days I was good enough when I was getting like to the stage of fighting the alien queen at the end. Took me a long time to actually just even work out how to beat her, because this is another kind of mindset you get into with these games of the era that's totally different to now. You kind of start off the game after you've become familiar with it. You actually start off the game with the intention of just kind of playing through it as perfectly as possible, so you have as much lives and ammunition at the end to beat the final boss. And
then reality comes along.
yeah, yeah, and this game really just throws reality at you hard and fast
You're
at
not
times, where
Rambo.
it's just like, yeah, you can't do it. You're dead. You fail to rescue the prisoners, and you get those. Now, don't get me wrong. Sometimes, if I was in a particularly mischievous mood, I'd deliberately not rescue any prisoners just so I could watch the cutscenes of them all chest bursting at the end of the level. But you're not going to progress through the game that way, unfortunately. It's also a weird concept. If you've watched the movie and then played a game, it's a little strange
It's very
to
strange.
it's very strange though that this idea of Ripley rescuing these prisoners who in the movie were like trying to like assault her and do
Yeah, they're
nasty
like
things to her.
murderers and rapists in the movie.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So definitely a different take on Ripley's relationship with the prisoners here. One thing I'll just mention as well, because we see it several times throughout your shots here, is the
Yeah,
that graphic of the alien looking around the corner that you see at the beginning and the end of
yeah,
each
that's
stage.
cool.
I just love that. It looks really
And it has a
cool.
little
It's just really
dripping
nice.
KY slime jelly on its chin as well.
Yeah, really, really, really nice touch. So yeah, even though it's a ball breaker of a game, but it's a really, really rewarding game once you get into it. And my God, when you finally beat the game and kill that queen, I used to just like, you see that silhouette, you see there Ripley at the end, and it's like, Ripley leaves Fury 161. It's just, wow, I can't believe I got to the end of this, because it was just such a slog of a game to get through. It's yeah,
And now you got to
amazing.
start all over again.
Then you can just go and start it all over again. Try it on a more difficult setting this time. I think not.
Yeah. I, I
'Cause
I
even
hate
on
when you get
easy,
the
it's
old
hard.
games where it's like this isn't the real end, play the other difficulty or something.
Yeah, they really just slap you in the face. You might have found it hard, but we actually had it on the easiest setting, so you're actually a pussy.
I'll just jump back a bit here because yeah, this one's a bit more blown up. This is the very beginning of the first stage. Just seeing, I love the animations, the little like gun muzzle flare. The alien comes running towards you, kind of lighting on him, and when you shoot him, he just kind of explodes into these shards. It's a really cool looking little effect because they couldn't keep too many sprites on the screen, so they got the old disappearing enemy when it dies, sort of thing. But and the way they crawl up the wall, you see one upside down here. Later on, you're in the vents and the ladders and they start off like real slow, and then they just bang, they just bolt at you.
Uh,
It's like scary, man.
yeah, the alien mechanics are very cool. And look, it's one of those
Very
things where
animalistic, like a cat going just or a tiger leaping at you.
they probably could have left out the whole game feature of having to rescue the prisoners, and you still would
Yeah,
have had a very compelling run and
yeah.
gun platforming game. It's the rescuing of
You
the
would have
prisoners that
finished a
really
lot
adds that.
sooner.
Yeah, oh, you would have, yeah, and that's the thing. The
Bloody time
rescuing
limit fighting those prisoners.
yeah, and they really add a layer of difficulty by inserting that mechanic. But you know what? it definitely got me coming back to the game multiple times to try and finish it. So maybe it was a good
Yeah,
thing that they ended up
and they
going with
had
that.
a really great version of this on Super Nintendo that had some very fancy graphics, orchestral soundtrack rather than the kind of synthy atmospheric soundtrack on the Mega Drive. Both were good games. They're both kind of based around the same thing, similar levels and ideas, but quite different. So they're different in a good way. They're both good. And even I only got to play a little bit of these ones then because I didn't own them. The one I played the most was actually the Sega Master System version, which is basically just another version of this, and it's actually quite good. Like it still actually plays quite well. The sprites are different and smaller, of course. The colors are different, but the funny thing is, when I was playing it, I was actually playing it on a black and white TV in my bedroom because I'd got rid of my Master System and now I had a Commodore 64 because I couldn't afford the games. So I had like 2 games for years and just got bored of them, like Wonder Boy and Alex Kidd, good games, but got bored. Games were too expensive. I couldn't buy anything. So I'm like, what am I doing? I don't play this thing anymore. So eventually I got rid of it, got a Commodore 64 because I could get bootleg games off my mate for $1 a disc. So all of a sudden I had 100 games instead of 2 and I had stuff to play. But occasionally I would borrow another Master System off a different mate and he would loan it to me for a couple of weeks. And I borrowed one time the Alien 3 Master System one, and it was actually pretty good. Like I was playing it for like a week, just playing this like every day after school. But it was on the black and white TV, so it made it a bit more difficult because I couldn't tell always the background or the colors of what was going on.
Yeah, I'd say that would be tricky, all right. And
But it was still fun, still quite fun, and quite. I was actually pretty impressed by the Master System version. Sometimes the Master System versions of a downgrade or kind of shit, but it actually played quite well.
wasn't until years later that I discovered just how different the Super Nintendo version was, because I
Yeah,
always
it's
knew
very
it
different.
existed,
It's very
but I
slow.
didn't
It's
realize.
atmospheric and looks nice, but it's very slow and like quite janky and jerky. Whereas this is almost very responsive controls. While it's a slower paced game, it still has the good twitchy arcade type movement and controls. It even plays similar to RoboCop vs Terminator and the Terminator games. Well, the way you scroll along and fire feels quite similar to those games.
Yeah, no, it's definitely got that mechanic. It's very
And the
similar
ladder
to.
movement's really fast, which is good. You want that. You know, you don't want to be too slow. At the Super Nintendo game, like you move too slow in that game, and it actually makes it quite difficult because the animations are so slow to react to anything you do.
It's also got that, diagonal shooting where you can shoot nearly in like
Yeah.
any direction as long as your D-pad is
Oh yeah, I
pushed
love
the
that.
right
You can
way.
shoot up and down on the ladders and stuff. That's really
Yeah,
cool. Makes it more
yeah, it's
strategic when
really
they
nice.
come charging up the ladder at you.
Yeah, and it's one of those things when you're in full flow playing it, you really are like the Zen master, because once you get into the vibe of it, you're like rescuing the prisoners, you're killing them, and you've learned every location of where an alien's going to appear and how you're going to kill them.
Yeah,
It's like one of those things, you just learn the game off by heart until you're ready to complete it in as perfect a way as possible.
yeah. I love the
This
different
game,
colors too used throughout the levels, and that are really cool.
oh, it's really, yeah, it's a good looking game. It really is
And you
a
got
it's
the
a
whole
good
kind of
looking game.
foundry thing at the end, which is at least like the movie, but also again reminds me of Terminator 2. Like many things too.
And yeah, at least we do get the nice like little silhouette of Ripley at the end, because you get nothing to start the game off with. Like all you get is like the press start title screen, and then you jump straight
Yeah,
into the game. Like
just get
there's
into
no
it.
setup. It just drops you straight in.
It sure does. And before we go on heading towards the next cool game, we've got a clip. This is a part where you're watching the old Late Show, and he goes to old Paul Shaver's like, "Do we have a clip? Do we have a clip? I don't know, Dave. Do we have a clip?" Okay, I'll play that one. Goes for a whole minute. cool sound effects. Love the guns and the explosion sounds and that. Cool as.
We're getting on to some good stuff here.
Yeah, this is an all-time classic. Aliens vs. Predator arcade. Nothing to do with those terrible movies that come years later. This was like tying into the Dark Horse comics and that kind of media empire that was going in the late 90s or mid to late 90s.
This game is just amazing, and it's almost like one of those fever dreams where it's like, I can't believe I actually played this and haven't played. Like, I'd say
the first time you played it, who did you choose? There better not be a human character.
It was a human character, yeah. I
you did
chose,
really?
Shaffer,
we can never talk again.
Yeah, I just
no, they're all good. They're all good choices.
Of course, now, like as you see here, my figure here, I came to love the actual Predator characters in the game. But yeah, for starting off, I went with Shaffer. But all the characters, like you said, they all have their strengths. They all have their strong points.
I didn't know when I first played it was meant to be Dutch. I thought it was just some random dude. So.
Yeah, if it wasn't for the fact that I knew his surname, I never would have known it was supposed to be him with his really roided up physique. Like he's definitely on the gas.
Anime looking, but if you look at that pose, that is that classic side on flexing muscle pose, which is from the old Arnold bodybuilding pictures and that. So.
Yeah, like it has to be at least 25 years since I've played this game.
Yeah. Like this game still stands up great too. Like the level design, the sprites, the controls are perfect. It's very fast paced. It's as fast as playing like the best Street Fighter games of the era or Cadillacs and Dinosaurs, Final Fight. It's so responsive, and it has extra little special moves. Like you can basically do like the Dragon Punch with the Predators. It's just down up punch, and they do a big uppercut, and you've got your projectile moves, fireballs and stuff as well that you can, hit all the aliens with, set them on fire, as well as all the crazy guns you can pick up. There's so many guns and weapons everywhere in this game.
This is so Final Fight, this opening. Like
it's in the street. You got the Capcom barrels. There's one bonus stage in this game too where you get to smash some stuff like Final Fight and Street Fighter.
I love though these opening kind of story graphics.
Yeah,
like
the cutscenes are really good. Like so it's the track screen, and also when you put your credit in, you see the full cutscenes which go all through the whole game too, in between each stage. Really, really good.
Yeah, I just love the whole idea of an alien Earth invasion and just like taking over cities, and
it's like all those screenplays that they never aborted and did anything with, or occasionally in Dark Horse comics, they did something. And
well, funny enough, you should mention that because I believe that there are elements of this game have been plucked from an unused script for an Alien versus Predator movie that never materialized. So I'd say they pulled from Dark Horse comics, they pulled from that, and just of course you've got your mix then of just the general kind of Capcom game staples, and it just kind of combines to make this like
you've still got some really street food you can pick up for health. You've got the Capcom barrels, but now we've got aliens crawling along the ground. We've got flamethrowers, you've got the big machine guns and pulse rifles, and you got the Predator spear and the disc from Predator 2, which I love.
And I'm not knocking Konami or Acclaim. And look, obviously the two last games we worked with, they're from a specific time period and meant to be played on specific machines and whatnot. But in terms of like graphics and color and sprite, this game just blows those other two games we looked at out of the water.
Sure. It's a whole much more powerful arcade chipset and jammer boards and whatnot. And Capcom had like CPS 2 and 3, but basically you had like Street Fighter 2, World Warrior, Hyper Fighting / Champion. And then eventually we got to things like Street Fighter Alpha and those other ones. And each time we were getting like more memory, more graphics power, and fast-paced games, bigger screens, more players. You can play 3 players at the same time on this one.
How did you first come across this? Was this
Mm.
another chip shop job, or was this a proper arcade experience?
It was at both at different times. I don't remember. Probably the first time I ever saw it would have been in the arcade in the city when it was like newish, and then as stuff got older, it'd been out 6 months, 12 months. They would start rotating games out to bring the new stuff in, and actually the one at Wizard stayed there for years because it was so popular. They kept it there. This one when it moved from the front section to the back section, so it had been out for a year or so. So they're rotating the new stuff. It sat next to Street Fighter Hyper Fighting for at least 2 years. So you would see these two games side by side, and they were both on like really big, oversized screens and looked awesome. And people would still regularly play them, even though they've been out a long time. But one turned up at the local chip shop. When I say the local chip shop, we didn't have one, two, we had three chip shops in our street, and they all had video games. One would have 1 or 2 machines, another one would have 4 machines, just based on the space in the shop. And I mean, the main one we went to was probably not much bigger than this room I'm in, so there were just 4 along one wall. And the other one was bigger. They had the ordering area, and they had a kind of room that was just arcade machines. And you could fit bigger stuff, like bigger cabs, like Mortal Kombat 2 was in there sometimes, AVP, Double Dragon they had in there. You could fit probably 6 or 7 machines, but they had a bigger room that was just arcade games, and kids would go there after school just to play those games and occasionally buy chips. So I was quite fortunate that I'd get to play stuff in the big arcade in the city, but that took me an hour to get in there on my bike or walk or whatever. Whereas a chip shop, I could just walk from my house to there. It was walk there in 2 minutes.
That's cool though that they actually had them, because like, don't get me wrong, like you definitely come across the odd or like arcade game in a takeaway or a chip shop here. The only thing is it seemed like pretty early on the arcade games were replaced with like gambling machines, essentially, like poker machines and stuff like that, just for people just to sink
Eventually
money
that
in it
happened in
while they're waiting
Christchurch,
for it.
but that was not till basically when I left around 1999. Yeah, that sort of thing started happening. It still had games here and there, but all the arcades were turning into prize machines and wacky action stuff and Konami beat beats and hit a drum or smash the crocodile. Nothing wrong with that, but that's not what I go to the arcade for. So
Yeah. Although you were picking this up for the first time during that sweet spot, that golden age of availability.
Yeah, I didn't get to finish it with my own money, as in credits, because it's not super difficult, but there's a lot of enemies, and it takes a few credits and a lot of practice to get really good at this. Just the sheer volume of enemies in this is way more than other games, because it was so fast paced, and the waves of aliens that come at you, and you do get health pickups on that, but they're kind of few and far between. I did get to finish it on Wizard's Night, and you think, well, what the hell is Wizard's Night? Once a week on a Saturday night, the arcade will be closed, but it'll be open at night time instead of the daytime. And you go there and you pay $8, and for 3 hours you can play every game you want to. It's all on free play, infinite credits. There's a special button they had on the machine that would give the credit without putting a coin in it. But it was very popular, and the whole room you'd line up to get in maybe half an hour beforehand, and it would get really crowded. So the popular machines, sometimes you couldn't even get near them. When Ninja Turtles arcade was first out on Wizard's Night, I couldn't get near it for months. You couldn't even see it because there were people standing all around it. And it was the same with games like this. But when they've been out a while, they'd rotate them, and people aren't rushing. They're going for the new stuff, so I could play the older stuff. And that's when I got to play this all the way from start to finish. And the cool thing is, because there's so many people there, there's always people playing three players the whole time. And if one guy walks away, someone else comes along, or you get bored and jump to another machine. But, I played Captain Commando, Street Fighter, Aliens vs. Predator. They're all in the same spot. You just walk around from one to another and play them right through. So it was awesome to get to see it right through in the Queen boss battles and all the cool levels. And here you're fighting like the enemies they're in the power loaders, which is cool. Instead of another game you're using one, now you're fighting against them.
So good. I just like these sprites are just next level, no pun intended.
Oh, they're fantastic.
I love the flame effects.
I love how you
always
get
love
the
Capcom flames.
I love how you get the extra in this. You've got all your regular attacks, your jumping hits, your weapons, a couple of special attacks like down, up button or whatever. But then you've also got you've got 3 buttons in this game, and one's for like doing the Predator's cannon thing on his shoulder, or if you're Dutch, it fires his machine gun arm. And it's unlimited ammo, but it overheats. You wait for it to recharge, and you can keep using it, which in addition to all the pulse rifles and other guns you pick up in the game. So it's so good. And the Predators can use all the guns too, as well as their own weapons.
Yeah, it's awesome seeing a Predator handle a pulse rifle and stuff
Yeah,
like
it's
that.
wicked.
Like, it's cool. Yeah, and it's that's the extra kind of added mechanic on this game as well, because you play stuff like Final Fight and it's all about, it's literally fighting, kick punching, but in this game, because you actually have projectile firing weapons, adds a totally new dimension on top of the hand-to-hand combat that you're
Yeah, and
already
you've got all the
partaking in.
combos and punching, but it's very dynamic. You've got the uppercut move, which Predator's doing on the left side of the screen there. You've also got the throws when you get up close, but you've also got the special throws, which is like a variation of Zangief's the spinning pole driver, where you just grab someone and jump up there and dunk them on their head and do more damage. So you've got heaps of cool attacks. I'll just jump back a moment here. See that boss on the right side of the screen? You can see he's rolling up into a ball. It's like they definitely are pretty sure they pinched that from that Konami game. Different alien, but he does the same rolling ball attack. It was cool. And we get another cool Queen Alien boss battle here. Same deal again. We get the egg lead up and then fight her with the big egg sack. And the Queen Alien sprite looks amazing in this game. Looks so cool.
Unbelievable. And
She
like, I
just
love the
fills
way
screen.
that the level actually interacts in the sense that, like, it starts burning down as you like fighter.
And this will be
really, really cool.
Running on the, I think this will be running on the same hardware as the Dungeons and Dragons arcade Capcom game, which also had some some of the bosses and that are so big they don't even fit on the screen. Some of the flying dragons and stuff. So it feels like that with this Queen Alien. We're getting into this like whole other era of amazing Capcom games with cool boss fights. Stages are more dynamic, and the way they scroll and stuff, animations and stuff going on in the background, just amazing.
An absolute crime that this game has not been re-released. Like,
yeah, it never got a home release on anything.
Like we were saying before we started recording, like I would buy a new games console if I knew that this was going to be released as a like for like port of this arcade version.
Yeah,
because it would just
like you can run it on main, but you've got to have it set up the right way, and it's a pain in the butt. But it's been only way to play. And the good thing is, at least those ROM sets are out there. They've been around for years. It is possible to do it, but you got to set it up right.
Be cool being able to do multiplayer online with people in this game. I'd say
that'd be cool.
Because we got to do that. I know when they re-released the Konami Turtles arcade machine on Xbox, that was all I ever wanted to do, was just play with other people, because I'd only ever played that game by myself.
I played in the arcade, only on the Wizard's Night. Most of the time it was by myself.
So it's nice, even if you are online, they're not there with you, but you're still getting that multiplayer buzz.
Yeah, actually, that reminds me. I got to play on that Wizard's Night on different times, because I went there over a couple of years. I got to play Simpsons with like 4 players all the way through this game, and Ninja Turtles and Turtles in Time, like right through, because it would be packed on the Saturday night, so every machine would be full. So any multiplayer thing, there'd be multiple people when you get to play it through, because it was good fun.
Yeah. No, it's an awesome game.
I like this. Yep.
Oh no, I was just looking at the some of the stills here where you see the xenomorphs within the kind of pods before they like smash out and stuff.
That's cool. Actually, so cool. Some of the levels here definitely share some design elements with KAALLLL and dinosaurs. Like the pods with stuff breaking out. There's a jungle level. There's quite a few things that are like real similar. You can tell that they've learned a lot when they were making that KAALLLL and dinosaurs game, that they've got the benefit of putting into other games. I like this boss here too. You fight the mad predator, and you don't know why he's mad, but apparently later on you find out he's been experimented on in a lab, but he's got a chest burster in him, so that's why he's mad.
Yeah, the predators are also being mistreated by the by the company, aren't they, in this game? Like that's part of
Yeah,
the story there.
yeah, that one had been captured for study or whatever. And we get, strangely, in that bottom screenshot, the zombies are back again. Even though this is Capcom and not Kodak, we've got the zombies again.
Yeah, and like, what are these guys supposed to be? Are they like once it's
I
probably just
think
more
that's
like
that same
infected
lab stage
humans?
from the Mad Predator. So I think they're meant to be
Yeah,
human experiments or whatever.
yeah, that goddamn company, man. They're always just
Yeah,
up to something when it
but
comes to experiment.
it also feels a bit like KAALLLL and Dinosaurs, and that has a lot of mad science and experimentation stuff going on as well.
Yeah, you can see a lot of similarities between the two. And
Yeah,
also,
and then
as
we've got
like the way the two
Flight
look as
Final
well,
Flight. The
just look
human
similar.
guys rushing in feels like the Relento guys coming in Final Fight. Except now they've got the big bloody guns.
This red corridor looks amazing as well. It's just, yeah, beautiful looking game. Absolutely beautiful looking game. And
Yeah,
you appreciate it
it's,
even more when you actually get to look at it still. Because when you're actually playing it, obviously there's so much action
it's so
happening, you're not
fast.
always taking in. But just to see it here,
Yeah,
laid
the
out like
green
this,
power
it's
loader.
a thing of beauty. How cool is it seeing a predator with a smart gun too? Like that's
It's
just
awesome.
amazing.
And I like how the another trope of the old arcade games, you get that some of the early stage bosses become regular enemies later on, even to the point you fight multiple. Like there, you're fighting Royal Guard and Chrysalis Alien, other as well as normal enemies and drones and all that.
Of course, we see a queen make a return as well. Of course, there
Yeah, we
at
get
the
a
bottom.
second Queen boss battle, which is cool. So we had the Queen battle, multiple alien boss battles. We had a Predator battle, and now another Queen boss battle.
Yeah, they just throw everything in the kitchen sink at you in this game. But like that's a like we said, though, that's a classic Capcom mechanic of just doubling up on enemies, and enemies that were special bosses have all of a sudden become just part of the normal enemy group that you now have to contend with. So it just gets harder and harder as you progress.
Yeah, it's cool as. But got a
So
couple more slides of this one before we move on. I'll play a clip of this one so we can check out stage of this. Goes for about 2.5 minutes. I'm gonna dash off a little break and be back while this plays. You know, Capcom points at the end of the round.
I also love the classic Capcom. You've just defeated the enemy, so the final blow you deliver, he goes in
It's like slow motion. Yeah, like Street Fighter. That they carried over so many things.
Even the Predator winning pose, it's like totally
take the mask off. And I love when we get to this battle here. This scientist Fat Man, like it's like whatever he is, military scientist Fat Man. It's his technical name. He gets eviscerated. He just gets sliced in half, just like Bishop style. But just the guts of the blood. It's so cool to see this in the middle of the game. And see his proper intestine hanging out.
His dialogue box. Yeah.
Yeah. And the Predator's got that one knife. Like, I think you need more than a knife to fight the Queen.
Yeah, you might need to be packing something a little bit heavier there, pal. Once again, though, awesome level design. Like that background is brilliant. Cool center. Your classic Capcom wooden box there as well, of course.
Yeah,
smashed.
A crate. I used to read a video game Australian magazine called Hyper, ran for about 20 years here, but it's been gone for a long time. And they always joke about crates and exploding barrels in video games. And people even started writing letters and stuff. And it's like, oh, you're telling us the scores are all these games, but we need to know the time to crate, as in how long in a level before we get to a crate or a barrel. So they started putting it as a joke under captions in games like time to crate, like 30 seconds or 60 seconds.
Such a staple. You have to smash something if you want to get health or a weapon. It's just what you do. It
needs to be a car or a flaming barrel. Or...
It's what caused the wave of youth destruction during that time where kids are just going around smashing shit. They thought they got some type of bonus if they did it, you know?
Have you, real question, have you ever actually smashed a wooden crate like that in real life? I have.
So yeah, I have. Back when they actually used to be a thing, you don't really see them anymore.
Well, they still use them in shipping, but they use a lot of plastic stuff as well.
Yeah, I used to love kicking holes through them. That was my thing.
Yeah, kicking holes. They're usually like made for one-off shipping of things, like on a plane or a boat or whatever. But getting one time I did some work experience at the place, and I probably wasn't terribly suited for there, as far as it was just a parts warehouse of all sort of I don't know, plumbing and mining equipment, all kinds of weird shit. And it would take you like months to learn where everything was. But they had a heap of rubbish out the back, and they're like, when there was nothing to do, like, oh, can you clean up some of this rubbish? I'm like, yeah, I can. I was out there for like 3 hours with a crowbar, smashing the shit out of some crates. And I was having so much fun. And they're like, do you want to come in now? And it's like, no, I'm having too much good time, man. And it started to rain. And like, do you want to come in? I'm like, no, man, I'm having fun. I was smashing all this stuff. I was kicking. I had the steel boots. I was stomping them and smashing them. There was a whole pile of stuff that'd probably been there about a month, and I demolished it in 2 or 3 hours and put all of it in the skips. And because no one had time to do it, and no one wanted to do it, and I was just like, great, this is so fun.
All those years of gaming were leading to this one moment where you get to apply those skills in the real world. You know, I'm gonna smash the shit out of these.
Have you ever watched those videos of, like, there's a guy, I mean, there's a bunch of them now, but the first one was an Australian guy, a real martial artist, who like smashes up a car, like the Street Fighter bonus stage?
No, I have not watched that.
I'll send it to you later. Like a bunch of copycat ones have done it, but the first one has been up for years on YouTube, and it was somewhere over east. I think like New South Wales. There's an Aussie guy who's a martial artist who trains for years and whatever. But he smashes up a car. He does jump kicks and punches and elbows the windows and stuff, and just beats the hell out of a car like that. And he dresses up like Rio, and it
sounds like something that you would risk hurting yourself if you didn't know what you were doing.
Yeah, some of the stuff he does, I went, yep, I can do a front kick to a window easy. But he really goes to town and does a heap of fun stuff. But yeah, I love these sprites here, man. All the they've got so much going at the same time. With the big, massive queen, you get the acid spits and the flame effects, and it used to be to get one or two of these things, but this game is like more powerful, so you can do much more cool, like the shadows of the characters, the lighting, these special effects, all at the same time, and the game was fast as hell.
It just looks amazing.
And multiple bars on the screen for like all your characters and the bosses, and Queen Alien's got more than one bar, so it's tough.
It's one of those things, I would have settled back in the day if they'd just done a home port with reduced sprites and less player options. It would have been.
Yeah,
Then again, maybe it's a good thing that we only ever got the one perfect version of this game and that there was no subpar.
there's no bad memories, no Final Fight guy. But yeah, I would have played any kind of home conversion. If you made it on the Commodore 64 and it moved at 1 pixel, I probably would have played it.
Yeah, because I did play on. I know we're not really talking about it today, but of course I had played plenty of that old, NES Alien versus Predator. That just you think
Yeah,
it's going to be like this, but it's nothing like this at all. It's just a pure beat 'em up, to say the least.
yeah. There's a heap of different home consoles and micro conversions of different Alien games where they got the main game and then the other systems got some other kind of weird game that was like very different, and like that's a whole topic unto itself. There's a heap of different ones that are not great but interesting.
That's so cool. Really nice cutscenes as well for
Yeah, the
the
cutscenes are
longer
really good,
moments
like a
there.
real standout for this game.
And just even the design there, like I love the way that ship looks like the Narcissus shuttle from the end of
Yeah,
Alien. Just a really nice touch. It just goes to show that the people who were designing the game had actually watched the source material that they were basing stuff on.
yeah. Thankfully, it wasn't made by some modern gaming studio who hadn't watched something and just went, "Oh, put whatever in there," and get like a wrong references or wrong items or weapons or something.
Here, a relatively happy ending as well. Unlike Cadillacs and Dinosaurs, where two of the characters just drive off and leave the other two on the
Leave the other guys to die.
the show of respect between the predators and the humans as well. The handing
Yeah,
over
it's
of the
cool, and you
blades.
get the one of the predators leaves a little souvenir claw, like kind of like sign of respect that they fought alongside each other and saved the day.
Yeah, my NECA predators are always leaving me those claws on the floor when they fall off the shelf.
Good old naked predators. But yeah, cool cutscenes and like fantastic game. It's quite long too. Like when you play it, it takes depending on how good you are, it takes quite a while to actually finish the whole game. Like probably a good 45 minutes right through, or longer if you haven't played it that much.
Yeah, it's
If
no
you die a
cakewalk.
lot, it takes longer.
You got to put the time in, you got to put the practice in. And like it's only like I never finished it in the arcade because I didn't get to play it enough.
Mm.
And I didn't have enough money. But
Yeah, it takes a
it's
lot of credits
extremely
like to get through.
satisfying. I love it. I love it. I still sometimes will watch playthroughs of this on YouTube just because of the happy memories I have playing it back in the day.
Yeah, it really ramps up the difficulty in the later levels. Like Calyx and Dinosaurs, like I used to play that and I could get through about the first 3 or 4 stages in 1 credit, but after that the game just got like crazy hard. Like it would kill you on purpose in a lot of bits to force you to spend more money on it, of course. And this was the same. There was a lot of cheap deaths and cheap hits and lack of live pickups to force you to spend more money to keep playing it. So it was like, how many credits could you get through, for the minimum?
Yeah.
But that brings us to our last topic of today, which, funnily enough, is Aliens versus Predator, but it's the PC game. But if you want to kick off talking about this, I'll be back in a moment.
Yeah. So this Aliens versus Predator game was released for the PC in 1999 by Rebellion Studios, I believe, are the producers of this, and this was like an absolute mind-blowing game for me back in the day. A friend of mine managed to get his hands on it. I played it for a little bit down in his house. I knew straight away I needed to buy this game. I needed to own it. I did at the time. I was lucky enough that the PC that my father had purchased for important business matters was of high spec enough that I could actually play this game. So I did what I often did back then, and I went down to the dodgy market where you could buy pirate PC and PlayStation games on our nice, copied over onto CDs. So I found Aliens versus Predator, got it for $5, which was a steal. And of course, back then, all you needed to play the game was the disc and the serial code, which the man who sold me the game very kindly wrote with a pen on the back of the package. So I went home, installed the game, put in my pirated serial code, and just
Bloody
immediately
pirate.
became immersed in this brilliant, brilliant world that they created. Did you ever play this game?
I never owned it because I didn't have a home PC or anything till many years after this existed. I played it in like the computer shop in the city. Like when I say computer shop, it was a video game shop that had consoles and computers, and then sometimes they'd have a demo or the new game set up. So I played like the first area, or maybe like 10 minutes, half an hour, and died a bunch. But that's about it. That's all I got to play of it, other than watching videos of it years later. And I read the video game magazines and all the reviews, and they did the sequel. And I remember thinking, man, I wish I could play this, but didn't have a PC till many years after these games have been around.
Yeah, so for those who haven't played it or who aren't aware of the premise, the game is actually essentially three separate games in one.
Yeah, there's
There's
images of the alien starts off with.
yes, so you get to play as either an alien, a predator, or a human who's a colonial marine. And depending on what species you pick, you'll be playing with totally different game mechanics. I suppose the marine game mechanic would probably be the most familiar to most
Yeah,
people
like a
because it's
first
your
person shooter
typical,
mechanic.
yeah, you're
Whereas this
running
shot,
down
the aliens
corridors.
crawling on the wall.
Yeah, playing as an alien for the first time absolutely blew my mind because
It's very disorienting.
you yeah, and the way the mechanics work, you could be walking on a floor one moment, then you just brush against the wall, and then all of a sudden you're crawling along the wall, and the camera just moves
Yeah.
to kind of move
The,
with you.
the Spider-Man games didn't get to do this until many years later. The early Spider-Man games, you were crawling on one surface. You weren't rapidly going in 3D in every possible direction.
And it's even though this game is obviously years after the last few games we looked at, and it's a 3D graphical engine and it's very advanced. In terms of storyline, it's really quite simplistic, and
Yeah.
each species has their own self-contained little story that somewhat interlinks with the other ones, but not
Yeah, kind
enough.
of bookends with each chapter. And the graphic,
But
it reminds me of like early Quake and Half-Life, that like simple, like polygon look in that. And
yeah, like some of the surfaces when you look at them now, they look a little bit maybe flat, but at the time this was like groundbreaking
yeah,
3D
it was the newest
graphics.
tech at the time. And it was very
But yeah,
fast. That's the thing about 3D. It's not about what's the best textures. It's about how fast does a game run without crashing on a computer.
and that's what this game was all about. It was like, especially as the Marine, it was like run and gun. You're running down dark corridors. You're just lacing enemies out of it with whatever gun you can find. And thankfully for this game, the technology had progressed along to the point where we had perfect sound replica of the sounds we heard in the
Yeah, the
movie. So your
sound was amazing.
pulse rifle sounded like a pulse rifle. Your smart gun sounded like a smart gun. If you were playing as the predator and you were in your kind of heat vision mode, you heard all those sounds that you would hear from the movies that the predator
Was
would
your
make.
bootleg a disc or a CD-ROM?
It was a CD-ROM.
Right.
Well, it was a disc. I think it was a disc where I had to load the files onto my PC
Yeah,
and then I played
because
them
in
directly
that
off
era,
the
they
hard
still
drive.
had some games. Some games are on disc, some on CD, and some like there was still a mix of stuff.
The main thing, all I needed to install this game on my drive was the serial code, which the man at
Yeah,
the stall quite happily gave to me. So I was loving like playing this game for $5 when it probably cost about 50, at the time. But it's, with the Marine, the alien and the predator missions are fun for the novelty of playing as an alien or a predator, but the Marine missions are actually genuinely terrifying, and you do feel like you're playing through a proper horror scenario with some of the stuff you have to go through. But ultimately, I think where a lot of people's memories or happy memories are going to be of this game is when it came to the online multiplayer, and this game was one of my earliest forays into the world of online multiplayer, because you could go online, you could go into these lobbies with groups of people who would be playing as aliens, predators, and marines, and it just led to these like crazy skirmishes of just bloodbaths, death matches between the three species, and it was great fun online. And of course, like these were the days where it's not like kind of Call of Duty or games like that now, where you just spawn with everything you need. Like you in this game, everybody would run for a particular weapon at the same time, and it would lead to battles over, who's going to get the med pack or who's going to get the smart gun, and we're going to kill each other in order to get the weapon that we want, and it was just amazing stuff. And it all sounds probably very mundane to a young person listening today, but at the time, being able to play online in these lobbies, it was just amazing. And the fact that you're in this totally, for the time, realistic looking 3D environment. It's got all the sights and sounds of the movies. It's just, yeah, it just blew my mind. It really, really blew my mind. And look, I know some of the stuff has aged poorly, but looking at these screenshots, it's still a pretty impressive looking game all these years later.
Yeah, it plays nice and fast. It's got the great movie sounds and like a lot of good classic 90s first person shooter stuff like Doom, Quake, AVP. It, they've got that speed when you move around. Like there's some games, some modern games, particularly if they're like a single player first person shooter, even if they have a bonus multiplayer, some of them are just like you're moving in treacle. It's like you're in mud. Um, some games move faster, but the ones that don't move fast enough, like that Quake speed, I love. Anything that moves slower than Quake, it feels like I'm going backwards. Like I can't play it. It's just when game's too slow, I might as well just read a book or something.
Yeah. I got you. It's like, and you strafe from side to side, and you just like almost bend your way around corners at
Yeah,
rapid speed.
and this was before we were getting all like cover shooters and Gears of War and two player co-op and this sort of thing. Like you got your PvP, but like it became a whole trend of like, oh, now we've got to hide behind cover, which is fine if you're playing a World War II style single player thing. You've got to slow down the pace to have your bomb runs going off overhead, and then there's a piece where a building falls. That's fine. That's atmospheric and cool. But there's other games where I wanted to just be moving fast and running and shooting things and not be stopping every 2 seconds or watching boring cutscenes or stuck behind the scenery, not doing anything.
And when it comes to that type of thing in this game, the storyline, especially when you're playing through the Marine, you kind of pick up all the bits of information from these random kind of video consoles that you'll come
Yeah,
across, and
little
you'll have
monitor guy. Where is he? He's
you'll
in a
have
few of these
an
shots.
actor, you'll have
There's
an
that.
actor on screen, and he'd be saying, "Oh, hey, rookie, you better
He's
move
in
to
there
the
somewhere.
next area."
I
And
thought he was in there. I thought I
apparently,
had some. No, there's the Queen.
I'm sure they're there. They're there somewhere. But
He's
yeah,
all through those
it was just,
levels anyway. Pops up on those video monitors a lot. I thought I had a
yeah,
shot
it's
of him in there,
usually,
but it's kind of cool because it's an actual video clip of a real actor person, but it's compressed down and chucked into the wall, in-game wall. So that's really cool. Good in-game storytelling,
and it just means that, like, if you are interested, you can stop and listen to what's being said, or if
and
you
you can
don't,
hear it without having to
you,
look at it as well.
yeah, and you can just rush on and keep doing what you're doing. You don't have to dwell on it, or watch a long cutscene or anything like that.
Yeah,
It just adds to the free
it's like
flowing
that
nature
Half-Life style,
of the
trying to
game.
do it in engine and world you know rather than forcing you to watch it completely. It still has some actual cutscenes, but they're kind of little bookends in the game. They're not like
Yes.
interrupting you for 10 minutes or anything.
And it's funny you mentioned Half-Life there, because I suppose this game, along with Half-Life, Quake, Unreal Tournament, they were
Yeah, Unreal. Yeah.
just a bunch of those early kind of, or not early, but like those like first foray into the kind of modern world of PC shooters. I kind of just jumped into
Yeah,
all
and
of them
this is
around the
real
same time.
early 3D as far as like being you know, like being first person shooter thing, but it's early 3D. These are the days of like, you know, Mario 64 and stuff like this, where they're still experimenting and find out what works and what doesn't. And you've got like games like this in Half-Life, you've got a really strong single player game, good weapon design, good stage design. And then you've got, as a bonus, you've got awesome you know, multiplayer online versus each other, and then years of mods built out of those that
Yes.
became entirely new games, like Counter-Strike, you know, started out as a Half-Life mod.
I think what I'll always love doing in this game is loading up a game as a Predator and just going in, cloaking myself, putting on the heat vision, and just kind of reenacting scenes from the movies of like just stalking people and killing them, you know. Because you can do all the classic part, like you can separate people's heads from their spinal
Yeah, there's a
column and
guy
stuff,
there,
and
his head's just popped off.
all that lovely gory stuff that you've always wanted to do when
The
playing
green
as a
blood.
Predator. The alien it can be quite satisfying as well, because you do move so fast that when you do encounter a group of humans, they're almost dead before they even realize you're in the room. You've like just like bang, 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 and they're all dead. You know, you've either cut them in half with your tail or exploded their head with your mouth gimmick. You know, it's yeah, awesome stuff you get to get up to in this
Yeah, it's
game.
cool. You get to see the first person jaws on the screen, like you're looking out of the alien's mouth as you attack him.
And, you know, I could be wrong, because like obviously in the earlier arcade and platformy versions of these
Yeah.
games, you would get to play as predators and humans. But I think this is the first game where you ever got to play as a xenomorph. Now I could be wrong there, but I can't think of any other examples
As
prior
far
to
as I know,
this.
it's the first one, because I remember reading all the game reviews and that. And this game got a sequel, just I think it was just called Number Two or whatever. But you know, it's basically
Yeah.
more of the same but expanded. And then years later, we got other games that basically were not officially sequels to this, but they're kind of like remakes or redos by other companies doing the same formula, where you've got the 3 campaigns or 2 campaigns or whatever, you know, Predator and Human.
Yeah, and it's a formula that works. Like even one of the more modern, or the most modern one I've played was from 2010, Aliens versus Predator. And it's the same. It's the original studio, Rebellion Studios, and
Yeah.
you know, like being honest, it really isn't that groundbreaking of a game, in the sense that like it uses quite old mechanics. It pretty much uses the same mechanics as the 1999
Yeah.
version. But that's what I kind of like about it. I kind of just like that simplicity of running from area to area and just shooting the shit out of enemies as they jump at you from around corners. It's just a kind of a nice, simple run and
Yeah,
gun
well, the
shooting
best
style that I
the
like.
best early first-person shooters all had arcade mechanics as the inspiration. Like the guys that worked on Doom were big arcade Twitch gamer fans, as well as like D&D fans and that. So they brought that style to first-person games, keeping fast-paced, action-oriented gameplay. And when games got too much into story stuff, which is fine, there are games that are entirely stories that don't even do much of anything other than, you know, you've got visual novels, you've got stuff like Heavy Rain and everything in between that are cutscenes more than games, and they're legit things. You know, they're still their own bits of art or whatever. But I always grew up as an arcade gamer, played Sega consoles, fast-paced games. Slow games bore the hell out of me, unless it's a good role-playing game or whatever. That's fine. It's different thing. But games are too slow. Don't want to bother with that. And even a kind of game that's got combat in it should move at a minimum speed. Otherwise, it's not fluid and it doesn't respond to actual button presses. So that kind of DNA is through all of these things. Through all the games we looked at today, all run at nice fast speed. Everything responds in real time to what you're doing with your button presses.
And yeah, and look, it's one of those things. I know, like today we looked at these 4 games, but to be honest, like, you know, we played a lot of these Alien and Predator games between us, and you know, I probably could have spent a bit of time talking about a few other ones, and maybe someday we will revisit this,
Yeah, we
because
can
there
circle
are
back
so many
around.
games. There's also a lot of junk,
B
terrible
games,
games. Yeah, yeah. So we should
the ones you
look at
shouldn't
the
play.
yeah, we should look at those games someday as well, because I played some garbage Alien and Predator games in my
Yeah,
time as well.
it's been on my mind down the track to do like maybe not full episodes, but like this one, do some kind of combo episodes of just like bad movies and bad games.
Yeah. Yeah, when it comes to bad stuff, we may as well do them in big dumps of multiple
Yeah.
items at the same time. Yeah.
Don't want to spend 5 hours talking about like this terrible game on the ZX Spectrum or something.
Yeah. Of course, we see
Men
here in
are
this nice
blind
shot,
and the trolls.
we see the alien queen meeting her demise here. But one other
Yeah,
little touch about this game that I like is the fact that as the predator, you see that kind of those predator symbols on the side of the screen to tell us like ammunition and energy, which I always
yeah, that's
thought was
really cool.
a very nice
The
touch.
little glyphs. And I
Yes,
like that you
very
get
cool.
to like in the Marine campaign you fight the alien, but also in the Predator one, but they're in different scenarios and different environments.
Yeah. And like there is crossover, don't get me wrong, but like you're not going to lose out by, not picking up on the subtle storyline details. Like
Yeah.
you're still going to have an enjoyable experience even if you just decide to play one of the
I love this
campaigns and
janky
not all
looking
three of
Marine
them.
in the cutscene. This guy's like,
Mhm.
oh, I
And
didn't
it's
know the camera
funny,
was going to be on.
apparently all the guys who you see along the way on the video screens giving you instructions and telling you bits of storyline, they apparently were all just the developers who they just got to sit in front of a camera and just do
I love
dialogue
when they
and
do
like,
stuff like that.
put on an army hat and pretend you're a
Yeah,
general.
that was the common thing in the 90s too, especially PC stuff. And I mean, you had exceptions. You had like, I don't know, Wing Commander with like Mark Hamill and stuff in it, but that was a lot of times they had that was the cheapest way to do it, but also fun. It's like, oh, you're on your lunch break, come over here, slap this on, sit in front of this.
Yeah.
You're in the game.
You're going to be the Marine lieutenant for the next 15 minutes. Now read these
Yeah, I mean, the
lines.
guy whose head explodes in the opening level, everyone will get to kill you. It's like, great.
Famous but not famous. But yeah, I know it was a groundbreaking game for its
Yeah, for
time.
sure.
One of those
Great
things,
use of a
like I
license.
said.
Like
Oh yeah,
you're not going to say it's as good as or better than Half-Life as far as like level design and structure and that, but a great use of a license. Like I mean, another memorable game many years later, unrelated, Chronicles of Riddick, but in first person, like great atmosphere. It wasn't much slower paced game. It was more like getting up close. It had melee boxing and punching. You were shivving people in a prison. Later in the game, you got to use some kind of like big industrial military type weapons on it. But just a great use of a license, and the theme and the atmosphere are like just really strong in this game, which I love.
well, speaking of atmosphere, and I'll give our viewers some a peek behind the curtain here because we were chatting about it before we started. I was
Yeah.
asking you about Alien Isolation and if you've played it,
Oh
and
yeah. I'm
I
gonna play that this
you
year finally.
yeah, you're gonna. Did you order yourself a copy of it
Yeah,
before
I
we
ordered it
started recording?
while you were saying that sentence. Not now, but I mean, a couple of hours back when we were talking, I ordered it in the same moment we were chatting about it. Like I already own it on PS3, but my PS3 controllers are all the batteries are all dead and you can't get replacements. So I'm ordering it. I ordered a new copy for PlayStation 4, so I can play it on that. Plus, I can plug my controller and the headphones on that system as standard, so I can sit there and get the good atmosphere on it and enjoy it. And I love
Yeah, well,
horror games. Like I played Resident Evil, Silent Hill, Dead Space, all those kind of ones. Love that kind of
yeah, well,
like this surround sound horror.
I predict you'll highly enjoy this game just for
I've been looking
those
forward to it for
reasons alone.
years. I didn't. Like, I bought it years ago. Never played it because I moved into state and I didn't have my TV set up. Didn't have my games console set up for a long time. It was all in storage, sitting in a room for a couple of years. And then when I didn't even have a PlayStation 4 until like probably 2 or 3 years ago.
I'm just going to give you advance warning. A lot of those guns and stuff that you're like comfortable with in other games, you don't get a lot of that in Alien
Oh yeah, I
Isolation.
know. I
Very
know it's
limited
back to basic,
firearms.
proper survival horror, like Riddick. It's not about getting lots of weapons and that. It's about actually surviving and following the cues and the environment and that. But bit of a tip off is the next week's topic, wrapping up our Alien Predator marathon for now. We can always come back to other topics down the track. But Dark Horse comics of the 90s.
Yeah, really looking forward to this. I actually I can't remember whether I mentioned this during one of our shows or backstage in one of the shows. I do have a Dark Horse Aliens and Predator art book. I dug it out of
Cool.
storage. I will actually try and send you a little bit of footage from it.
Yeah,
Maybe
send me
later
a
on
clip or
today.
something during the week.
Yeah,
And let me know which I'm in because there's so many bloody comics of the 90s. I've read a heap of them in the last few weeks leading up to this. But suggest any particular storylines or favorites that you want to see included in the show, because we can do an overview, but there's so many they did. So pick out some of your favorite ones, and I'll make sure to put some images in for those particular stories.
Yeah, really, really looking forward to that one. Our first time tackling kind of comics, I think, for me and you. I know you've done other comic related shows with Gojitron and the like. So
we can probably later in the year. We're gonna do some more sort of wrestling ones, but you've got to do a pick out another comic related topic out of the things you're into, and pick something else that we can do another show about. I mean, there's so much comic stuff. It's like, where do you start? There's just so much. we could do like a specific topic, or we could do like when we did our figure talks, like do a like, what are some of our all-time favorite ones? You know, pick like 4 franchises or things or characters, or like, you know, like I love like Astro Boy, Hellboy, Batman. Like that's, you know, some of my favorite stuff.
And you know, folks who are watching or listening to us today, like I said, we only really focused on the 4 games for today because there is so many games. But you know, if any of you you may have played different games, if you want to let us know what you think of the games we looked at today, or if you have any games that you think would have been more suited for this list. But we were trying to keep it within a particular time frame, and you know, we could probably talk for like hours and hours and hours if we went through all the games.
But really covering the like for me, when I'm thinking of like this stuff, like the movies, the games, it's like that first era of the licensed media, and it was the big balloon in the 90s of all the stuff that got made around, you know, Terminator, RoboCop, Alien, Predator. And once we get post year 2000, it's a whole different kind of barrel of fish. There's been lots of other games and other stuff, but it's different influences, different style. So much happened in the video gaming landscape that things are just like very different, and not bad or good. I'm just saying different. And so that to me was would be a whole other different retrospective of a different era. And there are some really great retrospectives on YouTube if you want to see like a really big, long, you know, hour-long one of just Alien video games where it's all footage and, you know, people just commenting on there was this one, and I enjoy watching some of those videos for research because there's heaps I played and some I haven't. And
yeah, it's good to just to know a bit more about the things that we love.
Yeah, and I love learning new things about old bits of media and stuff in on out for years, and learning just tiny little bits of new information I didn't know before, and you know, little factoids and obscure stuff that kind of escapes your notice that was there all along. Bloody company right under your nose.
Right under your nose. That guy who was looking at you funny that whole time was actually an android. You'd have known.
It was actually a clone of Burke, and he's back, and he's madder than ever.
But I'm looking forward to. I'm going to have a reread of a few Dark Horse titles this week, just to get me back in the zone. I've been getting
practice in the last 2 weeks. I've read a heap because it's been quite a number of years that they've been out of print. So I've been reading some dodgy ones online, and I got some that I'd ordered on Amazon and that. And
I wonder who a Xenomorph's favorite wrestler would be.
I'm not sure.
The ultimate Xenomorph warrior.
But yeah, that's a hint to the following week. So next week, some Dark Horse, Alien, Predator comics from the 90s. And following week, we'll do some more WrestleMania. I think we're up to number 10. I'm not 100%. It's around there somewhere.
Big 10. WrestleMania X, baby.
Bob Backlund. He's back, baby. Bob Backlund, Backstreet Boy. No, that's not a thing.
10 years in the making, folks. Covering it in due time. We'll have covered our first decade of WrestleMania.
Yeah, it's getting on. I actually watched something new the other day. I watched some of the something or other in Scotland, like it was on a few weeks ago.
Clash at the Castle.
That's the one. That's it. And it had like, of course, Drew McIntyre had, you know, of course he's, you know, popular in that, but it's his home country, so of course he's going to get some spotlight, you know, for the event.
Yeah, it was a good show from what I understand. I've watched a few highlights of it. So
yeah, the opening match was Cody Rhodes versus who was he versus? It was yes, that was it, and it was like not a hardcore match, but it was an I Quit match. But they had some tables and the kendo stick and that rubbish. But it was all right. They went like backstage and they went into the back room and they're pulling it. He was choking with the cables from the people's computers on the monitors and the stuff. It was good fun. And that was the opening match, and it goes about 45 minutes. It starts off pretty strong. It was good.
Good wholesome family entertainment. Nothing says family entertainment like watching a guy being strangled with a cable cord backstage.
I love a good strangle with it. Oh, and actually, he did a it reminded me very much of the sort of 2000s era Mankind Rock matches. He gets like a strap or a belt, and he's like just whipping the hell out of him in front of his in front of Cody Rhodes' mother. And AJ Styles goes up to the mother in the crowd, and she full on slaps him like a real slap, like slaps him several times real hard, and he just walks back for more, just milking it all the way. It was really fun, and the crowd was loving it. And you can tell she was so into it. It reminded me of like Bret Hart's mother when she used to be in the crowd and be like, "Oh no, what are they doing to Bret?"
Oh, my son.
Yeah, it was classic. Oh yeah, we better wrap up and finish up here. We'll come back another time.
Hope you enjoyed the show and are enjoying and looking forward to some more AVP goodness coming your way.
Yep, PvP, AVP, you and me, Aliens and Predator, Space Carnage.
Oh yeah. Take care, guys.
Want to come back next week?
See you later.
Yeah, he wants to come back next week. Uh-oh, on the run. Predator's here. Run away. Oh yeah, I'm gonna play there. That's true.